Over the course of decades, Gold Experience Requiem has been regarded as the strongest stand in the history of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But recently, Wonder of You has been making enormous strides. It's currently regarded as the strongest stand in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but I'm looking for ways and or counter arguments that can help get past this ability. I need to defeat the undefeatable. This is like The Boys, but for JoJo. I want us to be able to do that here. So what will be needed to do so? Well, what exactly are we going against? How does Wonder of You truly function? Well, firstly, the stand has the power to manipulate what is described as a natural law of calamity. It can activate its primary ability on anyone who shows intent to pursue or directly harm its user, or anyone that sees its back. This activation does not require the stand user to be aware of the user's intent or the pursuer's intent, as the stand automatically starts its calamity manipulation in response to its perceived threats. These calamities range from unfortunate accidents to direct physical harm. Alongside that, said calamities will often use the environment or the actions of the enemy against themselves. The calamities can be indirect, something like making someone fall and trip severely, or be something more direct, like a random leaf falling at a speed fast enough to directly harm you. But it doesn't stop here, unfortunately. See, Wonder of You also technically manipulates the logic of the world. The easiest way I can go about explaining this is that everything in the world is going to happen, right? A cup tips over, the drink spills out. Someone is going to sneeze out there. And Wonder of You takes what's going on and uses it to its favor. So anything that can happen or will be done with the benefit of Toru and his stand. His power guides the things that will happen in the world to his favor and against those that pursue him. Because the logic of this world is unchangeable and everything is connected. Not only is this logic manipulation, but it's the power to manipulate fate, luck, and even to the extent of karmic retribution. Whatever is meant to happen, it's guaranteed to affect whoever is the issue in this specific regard. And in the karma area, well, I'd say it's one of the most ridiculous things about this stand, because if you already have a bad history in general, the severity of the calamities that would come to you are easily life-threatening. So for example, if Frieza Saga Vegeta, that's a large example, but yeah, had seen the back of Wonder of You, it's not as simple as very possible that he'd experience a life-threatening injury. He probably will die, realistically speaking. Like that's going to happen. And this is a video on how to beat this stand, but to be very honest, there are certain matchups that a lot of antagonistic characters would not be able to win off this fundamental issue. Say that someone as evil as Frieza, who's taken countless of lives, sees the back of the doctor, or just intends to pursue because, you know, he's that type of guy. Even if Frieza could speed blitz, Calamity would do something as unreasonable as, I guess, like, let's say turn a punch into a torn bicep, tricep, delt, chest, the whole thing. His entire body could tear up before he even notices. So, you know, let's run these down for one last time. If you pursue him, he makes everything work out for him, and even your powers. And if you have a lot to atone for, don't even bother looking in his general direction. It's not worth it. You just don't do it. So what is there that you can do against this stand? Well, let's get the ridiculous powers out of the way first, because they're fairly self-explanatory. Like, let's just move out of the way of that. First, there's meta manipulation, which is hilarious considering that this is a video about Wonder of You and meta's level of the sky. As for what meta is, to be able to manipulate it, it's a level of abstraction that speaks on itself. So like imagine you're watching an anime where the character is consistently aware of everything that happens in the anime, every trope, every antagonist, he's able to acknowledge the characters in general. Sort of like Bugs Bunny, you know? Or imagine you're playing a video game and the game is about making video games. That's meta. So to be able to mess around with meta concepts would be to do something like Bugs Bunny, understanding, Wonder Review works a certain way, but he does something like, oh, you know what? I'm going to create a book, and this is the book of stand rules. And then I'm going to rewrite what Wonder Review can do and make it the exact opposite, so that if he looks at me, instead, he's the one that faces the calamities. Being able to do stuff like that, it's like, okay, yeah, that's a given why this character would beat that character. Next up, we have Omni Immunity, obvious one. You're immune to everything, of course. And then there's the other Omni ability things, Omnipotence, and all sort of illogical / incomprehensible conceptual abilities like that. After this, well, let's see what we have capable, because this is an extremely strong stand, right? The ability to warp reality scales above Wonder Review's capabilities, and it's easily to understand how, because as an example, imagine we have an equation, right? 1 + 1 = 2. That's the stand's logic manipulation, and it can change this result due to the ability to change the logic. So instead of 1 + 1 = 2, logic manipulation can change that 2 into a 5 or an 8 or a fish. You get the idea. It's in the same pocket as something as causality manipulation, which manipulates the relationship between cause and effect. But reality warping stands above this concept, because let's bring back the equation example. With reality manipulation, it doesn't have to be 1 + 1 = 2 anymore. You could actually change all the numbers. You can change the equation, remove the equation, turn it into something entirely different and unimaginable. That's why the ability to manipulate reality itself scales above the ability. Now, I think one of the best things you can do against Wonder Review isn't existing on, some sort of different plane of existence or something. It's making the active decision to not pursue Wonder Review. I had talked it over with Metas and Jobber, to be sure. And yeah, go beyond not existing isn't enough, because if Josuke had the intent to pursue, then he most likely wouldn't have been able to get his attack off, because it isn't an attack, for one, and how he used it, technically speaking. And the good thing about it not existing is that it doesn't have a physical property to be defended against. This is basically a double positive for Josuke. But how exactly could we use this? Well, firstly, let's have a character who isn't some sort of large-scale murderer, for example. Second, they ideally should have speed comparable or exceeding Wonder Review. Next is, if they have some sort of ability that can work as an attack, but you can't go for Wonder Review directly, you just happen to use it in the general area, a general ability that could be used on a more large scale could work here. But the key is to genuinely have the mentality that you're not pursuing him. And I don't think that it's common for a character to develop that level of assessment nor be able to understand where they're beat. It truly does depend, but that is how you combat such an ability. You could also use whatever is needed that doesn't have any sentience, but it does depend on who is wielding whatever item that it is. Because, for example, Wonder Review and Toru are stuck in Superfly, right? Superfly holds no sentience and doesn't need any user. So if they had been stuck inside, there isn't something that they're capable of that'd be able to get them out. But there's nothing attack-wise, I guess that's a better one to say, attack-wise, that'd be able to help them get themselves out. There's also the idea that, say that you have someone that's continental, in terms of strength, and they're capable of destroying it all. The idea of Toru being pursued doesn't technically count, because the scope is just larger than entirely than what Toru has going on, and then there's just no focus on him whatsoever. It's like What would happen if a Kid Buu-esque character is just destroying everything? One review's Calamity Manipulation wouldn't exactly be the one for this case if he's just blowing up the entire spot. Now, I want to say that one review makes a case of being the strongest stand user, but, you know, something as simple as not pursuing this stand puts a lot into question, because Giorno just reverts all your possible stuff back to zero anyways. It's not about, you can't just turn off the approach and try to go about it in a roundabout way. You're just not being able to hit him, period. That's just the case. Yeah, I will say that they both have similar area of characters that they lose to, because this power scales so far up in the general scope of fiction. I do think there's a lot to consider when comparing this stand to a lot of the other top tiers, but I guess that's more so a different video. Now, aside from all that, I think that should be it, because there isn't much left that I'd say beats said character. Unless it's like another one of those grandiose abilities that are just like more so like, oh, this is self-explanatory, obviously this is going to beat him, then yeah, I'd understand there. It's like, oh, hey, this is like some Cthulhu type beat, and it's just like, okay, well, yeah, it probably beats him too. But that's not the point. It's just more so trying to get an idea of what generally we can do to eliminate said character. But yeah, I'd like to do this type of video for other stand users. Like, I want to do one on Jotaro, but I don't even know if the Jotaro one would be of like, what, similar size of the video, longer than the video, shorter than the video. Like, I don't know. Like, I would have to get to that bridge and cross it. But that's all if you tell me what you're up for, and or it's like, hey, let's say like you want to see a character that's not a stand user. Hey, how would you go about defeating this character? That'd be also really interesting. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace out, and did my voice get deeper over the video? Anyways, Godspeed.